Alright guys, in Leviticus 20 today, and this book really kind of takes a lot of flack from people, particularly secular people, atheists, agnostics, things like this, that they try and use this as a proof that, God is not loving, this and that, he's telling people to stone other people and so on and so forth. Keep in mind though, this book is directed at the people of Israel. This is not, nowhere do we see um, God telling Israel to go into Babylon and stop uh, make them stop, committing homosexuality or sacrificing their children or worshiping other gods. Nowhere do I see where the Israelites are commanded to go into these places and basically proselytize these other people, at the edge of a sword. I just don't see any place for that. But that being said, he does go through and he tells the Israelites, look, when you're dealing inside your house, once again, going back to the passages that I read the other day, that we're not to judge those outside the church, because you can't fault those outside the church for being immoral. They're doing what comes natural to them. They're following their flesh, their human nature, because that's all they have. They don't have a spirit within them to guide them as far as God's view of morality. So you can't fault a horse for eating grass. You can't fault a bird for eating worms. You can't fault a an unbeliever for acting like an unbeliever. He's an unbeliever. But that being said, inside the church, Paul said we are to judge. We are to judge amongst ourselves. So God is telling the Israelites here, look, if these types of things happen amongst your people, you are to deal with them. If we would judge ourselves, we would not be judged. So one of the things that he goes through here is basically he's kind of outlining several things that we're not to go a whoring after wizards and magic and stuff like that. But then he gets into a lot of the things that really kind of bother people is regarding matters of adultery or incest or just sleeping with another man's wife, things like this. And God tells them, look, if this type of thing is happening, you're to stone them both. You are to deal harshly with things like that inside your own family, because by family I'm talking about the family of Israel, the nation of Israel. You are to deal with that inside your own group, because it's like leaven, it spreads. And if you don't nip it in the bud, it will spread and get worse. So, but this was something that kind of stood out to me, was verse 22. It says, ye shall therefore keep all my statutes and all my judgments and do them, that the land whither I bring you to dwell therein spew you not out. So he tells them here, look, I'm giving you these people's land, and the reason why I'm going to give you all of these things to do is so that the land doesn't spit you out. Basically, is so that you don't get kicked out of the land. Now again, understand that their conduct was tied to, or rather their place in the land was tied to their conduct. Not, this is not a matter of salvation. It never was. It's talking about their earthly position, their status, their peace here on earth, so on and so forth, was tied to their conduct. But salvation was always a matter of belief and faith. So, and then he goes on in verse 23, it says, and ye shall not walk in the manner of the nation which I cast out before you, for they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them. So God is saying, hey, the people who were in the land before you, and he goes on to talk about, some of the things that they were doing in this chapter. He says that, they were giving their seed up to Molech, which is talking about basically they were sacrificing their babies to this god Molech. And again, you can tie this to the context of abortion here in our nation. And God tells them, look, you're not kicking these people out. I'm kicking these people out, and I'm kicking them out of this land because of their conduct. So this is not a case of, okay, Israel, I want you to go into all the earth and judge the earth. This is a matter of God telling them, hey, I want you to go to this land. This is the land that I gave to you. This is the land that I promised Abraham. There's some people that are living there right now, and they are doing some wicked, evil things, and you're going to be pushing those people out of the land. So understand that whenever we're reading these verses, we want to read them in their entirety, but we also want to look at the context. They once they got done and they got settled in the land of Canaan, they weren't told to go to Babylon and then go to Persia, and they weren't told to go to other nations and basically try and make them live right. That's trying to enforce morality at the edge of a sword, which you can't do because our flesh nature prevents it. We are inherently evil people were it not for the Spirit of God. So that was something that I wanted to just kind of point out here, and then in verse 24 and again in 26, he says two things that really jumped out. He says, I am the Lord your God, which have separated you from other people. Notice here that it's God that separates the Israelites. It wasn't the Israelites that basically made this choice that said, I want to be on God's side. Again, we have nothing good in us. This was God that separated these people. It was God that declared himself to the Israelites. And this goes back to Abraham and so on and so forth. And then again in verse 26 it says, for I, the Lord, am holy and have severed you from other people. So again, you have a group of people, and God severed out a portion, his remnant. He had separated those people out and said, you are going to be my people. Again, putting the sovereignty of God first and foremost. So kind of two different thoughts there, but those were two things that really stood out to me that I wanted to share this morning. So, all right, you guys, God bless.